I balance the brunch check presenter under my hand as plates clatter and citrus peels curl on saucers. My family watches me not breathe. I kept the receipts, I say, and the room narrows to a camera's red dot, while the man at the end of the table slides an ID from his wallet. Heat blooms under my collarbone as my husband's smile thins. My father's brass coin prints a circle in my skin. And the agent's nod is a small, lawful click in the air. I touch the coin to the linen to stop it from trembling. The glass wall beside us throws a pale stripe of day across the table, across the plates and the fingerprints, across the rim of my water. The AC vent exhales a steady, clinical breath. Champagne beads on the flute beside my husband's hand and slips down, slow as a second hand. He laughs the way he laughs at waiters in traffic. Receipts for eggs? I let the binder breathe. The zipper teeth part with a dry rasp. Tabs show color like a row of flags, January through December, each month double copied. Each duplicate stamped with a tiny ink circle. The paper smells faintly of toner and lemon cleaner. My coin stays flat under my thumb, warm, a small sun I can steer by. At the server station, a ticket printer chirps and coughs. A stack of orders fans out. My cousin shifts in her seat. Her little camera brooch glints once, then settles. The red LED steady and dull, like an eye half closed. She sips coffee and looks nowhere. We rehearsed that. Look nowhere, hear everything. Agent Ramirez doesn't stand. He doesn't have to. He sets his leather wallet on the table edge where everyone can see. As stated, he says, voice low and even. I'm here as a private citizen and witness. No interviews today, no advice. If anyone chooses to make a voluntary statement, I can acknowledge I heard it. His hand stays open, empty. No threat, only procedure. Mother-in-law's pearls knock softly when she turns. We are at brunch, she says, the last word stretched like pastry. You're making a scene. I tilt the binder so the spine faces the light. Scene is free, I say. Numbers are not. The receipts are thin wafers. They whisper when I separate them. I slide one forward with a fingertip. Merchant, time, amount. Last four of a card that is mine. The ink has browned at the edges where heat kissed it. A watch flashes in my peripheral vision. My husband's wrist. Gold, clean, heavy. He reaches as if he might pluck the paper like a crumb. I move my hand an inch, and he meets the coin's hard circle under my palm. Metal on bone. A quiet checkmate. I heard a phrase once. Chain of custody. I built one. Every slip scanned. Front and back. File names spelled out for the day I would need them said aloud. Originals sealed in a plastic sleeve marked 1 of 2. Duplicate set marked 2 of 2. Exhibit stickers I printed at midnight when the house was only refrigerator hum and my own breathing. A voice memo on my phone says the date and the room and the time and the temperature like an aircraft checklist. I do not play it now. I do not need to. I feel it ticking inside my ribs. Sweetheart, he says, you're embarrassing yourself. The server places a bowl of grapefruit segments near my elbow. A bitter utopian smell blooms in the steam. Silver spoons clink like quiet bells. My cousin wipes a water ring with her sleeve. The red LED doesn't blink. It stays steady. I speak softly because soft words carry. 17 charges labeled client entertainment. 2 watches coded as equipment. Round-trip airfare to a city we don't visit described as a conference. A home theater as a write-off. And the best part, I tap the next page. Credits in my name for expenses I never saw. His brother exhales through his nose like a kettle about to go. That's optimization. Optimization doesn't forge a signature, I say. Ramirez's nod is a metronome. Not approval, not comfort. A notation on blank staff paper. The wallet stays on the table. The badge glints once and goes dull again. Authority without volume. The restaurant's ice machine grinds. A child laughs at a far table and then coughs. A parent pats a back in a slow circle. The room is its ordinary self. That is the point. Public, ordinary, witnessed. My mother-in-law leans toward me till I smell lily and powder. Not here, she whispers. Pressed lips tremor under the pearls. Whatever your notes, not here. It has to be here, I say. Daylight is part of the record. I turn a page. This one is heavier, cream-colored, not thermal paper. A voluntary disclosure statement, blank except for the header. The ink is patient and perfectly centered. I keep it face down for now. The paper holds a coolness that makes my fingertips ache. 12:15, I think. Notary in 5. The battery on the brooch is fresh. My phone is in airplane mode with the recorder ticking in local storage. I can say in a steady voice exactly where we are and who is here if I need to. I have the non-emergency number keyed under a single press if the mood shifts to shouting or hands. I picture the path to the door, 2 steps to the aisle, 4 to the host stand, 6 to the sidewalk. You learn to count exits when you have something to lose. He drums 2 fingers on the linen. The cadence is a lie. He's not relaxed. He is mapping faces, seeking allies. He finds his mother, his brother, the aunt who likes to turn disputes into staging. He finds the server who will have to walk around the binder. He does not find the door. That is new. "This is ridiculous," he says, louder now. "You don't even know what you're looking at." I know amounts, I say. I know merchant IDs. I know the smell of a gas station we never use because I drove there to verify their branding with my own eyes. I know the difference between income and lifestyle, and which one can take your breath away when the letter arrives. The AC register clicks as it cycles. The coin cools fast against my skin, a sudden winter. It wakes me up like a clean hit of air. I remember my father rolling it across his knuckles at the kitchen table while bills lay open like mouths. "Keep what proves what's true," he used to say. "Truth is heavy but small." "Shut it down," his brother says. "We don't owe." Ramirez's voice cuts the air like a ruler laid neat on a messy desk. "I'm not here to tell anyone what they owe," he says. "I can state for the record what I'm seeing and hearing. If anyone chooses to make a statement or sign something, that's their choice. If anyone feels pressured, we stop. Do you understand?" "I understand," I say. My husband stares at the badge, at the wallet, at the edge of law that is and is not in the room. He looks at the red dot and has the thought he hopes I can't see. How small the internet is when a clip goes everywhere. Breakfast plates glow slick with yolk and light. Glasses tilt. A fork ticks on porcelain like the second hand in a watch shop. The front door opens on a hush of street air and a drift of car exhaust. A woman with a neat case and a soft scarf steps in and checks the host stand. Her hand rests on a square, black pouch. The pouch is thick enough to hold a seal. "Don't," my mother-in-law says. She grips the table and the pearls rattle like dice. I slide the heavier paper to the edge of the binder with 2 fingers, the way a dealer squares a deck so the corners line. My coin gives a quick, bright tap against the table leg. A tiny bell. It sounds like a start. The notary catches the host's eye, and I feel the table find its corners again. I keep my gaze on the heavier paper, but my head is moving backward like film on a spool. Bright frames clicking past as the mimosas sparkle. It starts with pantry math. Bags come in, shelves look the same. Flour that never settles lower, olive oil that never turns its shoulder. Receipts pile in a bowl near the stove like curled moth wings. Warm from the oven's exhale. He calls me sentimental about trash and kisses my hair. The bowl becomes a zipper pouch. The pouch slides into the hollow of a cookbook where a recipe card used to sit. The book is fat and quiet on its shelf. The pages smell like butter and old glue. The first anchor is easy. Groceries. I lay out the slips on the counter under the island light. I make 2 columns in my head. Things we eat, things we don't. The font is tiny, but the pattern is loud. Specialty items we never buy. A brand of protein powder I can't pronounce. 4 bottles of a wine we pretend to save for guests. My coin warms as I sort. I balance it on the rim of a coffee cup to keep my fingers free. It skates and rings a little, a bright dime-sized bell, then steadies. Gas is next. I don't recognize the station. I drive there on a Tuesday with the windows cracked. The air smells like hot rubber and fryer oil from the fast food place next door. I photograph the logo, the pump numbers, the cracked blue of the canopy. I buy 1 gallon to get a transaction tied to my presence. I keep the receipt. I keep the smell in my hair. At home, I spread everything on the table and make a map. I tape paper into a grid and write dates in pencil. Erasable because I will get the columns wrong 3 times. I print the bank statements and lay them beside the thermal slips. I circle duplicates. I slash through the ones that belong. The AC kicks on. The tape dispenser coughs. The coin runs across my knuckles like my father used to do when he didn't want to shout in front of anyone. I flick it once. It kisses the tabletop, then lies hot on the wood. I call the gym on the statement. A man with a soft radio voice picks up, neon humming behind him. I ask if either of us is a member. He says he can't share. I ask what city they're in. He tells me without thinking. I repeat the city back to him, slow, to hear how wrong it sounds in my kitchen. I ask the bank for a copy of a return slip that has my name on it. I say my name clearly and spell it twice. I ask for the authorization path, the method of signature capture. The woman says she can email a PDF with the audit trail. I ask if the audit trail includes IP logs. She says sometimes. I ask for the sometimes. She hesitates and then says she'll include what she can. The printer thrums like a quiet engine when the file arrives. Ink smell, warm paper. A line of numbers that are not mine drags across the sheet like a snake. The signature is my name, wearing a rubber mask. I press my coin into the margin until the metal leaves a ghost circle in the paper fibers. I take a picture of the circle and the line of numbers together. I stop sleeping through. When I wake, the house sounds like machines pretending to be human. Refrigerator lung, baseboard heart, the faint gossip of the router. I sit up and do a checklist in my head. Originals sealed, scans backed up, envelopes signed across the tape. One addressed to myself, one to a friend out of state. If anyone asks later, I can say what left my hands and when. I keep a spiral notebook by the bed and write the time in words so I won't confuse myself. 3:20, 4:10, 5:55. No colons, no symbols the tired brain can misread. At breakfast, he laughs. He says I'm doing scrapbooks. He says I should scrapbook his good side. The toast is too dark. The smell turns bitter and fills the whole room. I open a window. Street air slides across my arms like cool water and leaves grit on my skin. I watch totals that don't match their shape. I watch a payment to a boutique that sells watches, the kind that sit in glass cubes like small sleeping moons. I watch a hotel I can tell by the pattern of the cents that it's not an accident. Fancy places hide in odd numbers. I learn their handwriting. I put my phone on the cutting board and align the camera with the corner of the invoice like I'm sighting down a level. I keep my shadow out of the frame. I say the date out loud at the start of every recording. The coin taps the counter once, a tiny metronome for my own voice. When I finally say his name in my notes, it lands too loud. I erase it. I write subject instead and feel my stomach try to climb into my chest. I'm not an investigator. I am someone who didn't ask to learn how to label a thumb drive, one of two. The neighbor, Lena, smells like lemon cleaner and coffee. Her office breathes toner and old carpet and electricity. She doesn't smile when I hand her the binder. She pulls a pencil from behind her ear and underlines on a printed page without looking up. "Who signed this?" she asks. I say it again. She reads a second sheet and a third. "You need to feel safe," she says, and I nod. My coin is in my palm, burning like a small stove. I hide it in my sleeve before it marks my skin. She makes a call. She drops names with no adjectives. She says the word consult 3 times. Neutral, airless, precise. Later in my car, I feel the word under my tongue like a pill you can't swallow without water. Agent Ramirez meets me at a coffee shop that smells like burnt chocolate and milk. He sets his wallet on the table, closed. He doesn't open it until I ask who he is. When he opens it, he angles it so the sun doesn't glare on the plastic. A professional habit. I notice that and tuck it away. He says voluntary statement like a surgeon says scalpel, not excited, not afraid. He says witnesses. He says no pressure. He says daylight is clarity. He says he cannot tell me to do anything. He can only watch, and if asked, acknowledge what happened and who was present. Would that help? I ask. It can, he says. Sometimes truth needs an audience to be believed. I take my coin out and pass it from hand to hand. It collects heat and then gives it back. I recall my father flipping it while the dishwasher roared and the television murmured stock prices he never trusted. The coin clicked each time it crossed his knuckles, silver, then brass, then silver in the kitchen light. "Count what counts," he would say, half to himself. "Don't just count." On the drive home, I practice. I say I kept the receipts, into the rear view, and watch my mouth make the shape. I say, read first. I say what you understand. I say, choose. My voice starts as paper and ends as glass. I add one more layer to my list. Notary. 2 forms of ID, a clear table, nothing behind the signing hand. Witness in view, camera steady, no music, no jokes. If anyone says stop, stop. If anyone raises a hand, I dial 911 and say my location first. At the kitchen sink, water runs cold, then warmer, then hot. Steam climbs like a slow ghost. I rinse a glass and feel the heat in the rim. The coin is in my pocket, warm through the fabric, a calm animal leaning its weight against my leg. Back at the table now, brunch air bright and citric. The notary's pouch whispers on leather. My husband shifts and his chair legs click on tile. He looks for the old me, the one who laughed and let it go. I kept the receipts, I say again, softer than before. A test of the mic and my own throat. The notary opens the pouch. The seal shows its round face. The stamp sits like a little anvil in a field of velvet. There is a pause, a held breath made of room noise and pearl rattle, and the tiny hiss from the AC vent. The stamp case snaps with a neat public click. It sounds like a door unlocking, and the sound lands in my chest like another, older tap. The fork against my plate. The rhythm he made when he was teaching me patience I didn't ask to learn. Women's hobby math, his mother said then, perfumed and sure, lips grazing his cheek as if blessing the joke. Her pearls ticked like a metronome while gravy shone under the chandelier. He tapped my plate twice with the fork, a light, bright ping on porcelain. Don't frown, he said through his smile. It's off-putting. I held my father's coin under the table until the warmth traveled up my wrist. Citrus peel twisted in a glass. A roast hissed as fat met heat. I said nothing. I watched numbers bloom on the check like tide marks, and kept the feeling of the fork's ping as a place to return to when I needed to remember. In the car after, the door thumped shut and the cabin filled with the smell of leather and cold air. The seatbelt tongue clicked home. He didn't look at me when he started the engine. His voice dropped into the narrow space between us, soft for the kill. Be easy, he said. Be grateful. Then, quieter. Be quiet. The blinker ticked like a nitpicker. Far off, a siren braided the city into a single strand and then let go. I rubbed my thumbnail along the groove of the coin's date and tasted metal at the back of my throat. I said, okay. It wasn't agreement. It was a placeholder you put down when you need to keep your hands free. At home, I empty the bowl by the stove and sort the curls of paper into columns under the island light. Thermal slips breathe a faint chemical sweetness. I flatten each with the heel of my hand, then tape them to sheets of printer paper until they make ribs. Date, merchant, amount, last four. The tape snaps when it leaves the roll. A small bite of air and the adhesive smell rises like a thin, bitter tea. I stack months until the stack has weight. My father's coin balances on the keyboard spacebar while I steady it with my ring finger. I feel the ridge of the year. I open the bank portal and the two-factor prompt chirps. A code arrives as a small buzz on the counter. I read it aloud so the sound is in the room. I sort by merchant, by city, by amount. I filter out groceries we do eat. I keep the ones we don't. Specialty protein powder that never touched our pantry. A bottle shop that likes to charge in fours. A gym in a city I visit only on maps. When the browser times out, I re-authenticate and write that down too. I speak the date like a flight checklist, month, day, evening, and say my full name for the recording that sits in airplane mode inside my pocket. The dishwasher huffs to life, pushing hot water up the line. The air warms and fogs the window above the sink. The first transfer hides where you think it will, between two ordinary rows, a number that looks like its neighbor's, until you ask it what it's doing there. Joint account to a business account that exists on paper only, a name that has shared our coffee but never our rent. I trace it back through the bank's more details link until a PDF opens with its careful language, pale watermark glowing like a ghost. I read the words twice, 3 times. Authorized by my name, initials, my initials, shaped wrong, the slant a little drunk. I press the coin into the paper margin until the metal leaves a ring like a silent alarm. The printer warms and pulls a sheet down its throat. The page lands face up, hot against my palm. The ink is tight and neat. The metadata sits in a corner, small and bright. Device, location, time. The time is when I'm home, and the router sighs, and the hallway nightlight makes a gold lozenge on the floor. I picture myself sleeping on my side with one hand under the pillow, coin tucked into a pocket of the nightstand, where I listen to the house name its noises. I open my photos and pinch out the night to see if anything shows. No movement, no screenshot, no blue light reflected in the glass. I check my calendar, a reminder to water the fern. No midnight. I request the trace anyway. Ax trace, I say on the phone, the receiver warm against my ear. Authorization path, any available logs. I spell my name twice. I spell the business's name I wish I didn't know by heart. The call center hums like a bee farm. The representative says, "We can provide a confirmation and a narrative." I ask for both. I ask if there is an IP address. She says, "Sometimes." I say, "Include the sometimes." I let the music of the hold times wash in and out and write down every sentence she says as if it were an oath. The pen scratches like a tiny insect on the pad. The coin sweats in my palm. I set it on the desk to cool, and it makes a small ringing kiss against the wood. I build the ribs higher: grocery, gas, boutique, watch, hotel, theater. I tape the receipts into timelines that let my eyes breathe. I mark the ones that meet in the middle like bridges that shouldn't exist. The lamp hums. The room leans toward midnight. The computer fan whispers like a confidant who never runs out of breath. When the confirmation arrives, the email lands with a muted chime that tastes like copper in the back of my mouth. I open it. The narrative is dry as bone. It doesn't care about me. It doesn't know about the coin or the way the blinker sounded while he told me to be quiet. It lists systems and steps. It names dates and amounts. It confirms the transfer. It associates the request with an access session that isn't mine. I read the line 3 times. Authorized by username, my name, credentials authenticated. I know what he knows. If you build a house of keys, one fits too many doors. Password reset at 11:23, it says. SMS sent. I check my messages. No buzz from my number. A feeling like cold water goes under my ribs. I print the narrative and slide it into a sleeve behind the receipts for that day. I write the day in words on a small tab. Tuesday in late spring, so the shape of it will stick in my mouth and not vanish when I'm scared. I number the page in pencil. I press the coin into the corner to make a second circle to match the first. The house is a machine now. AC a breath. Refrigerator a heart. The router a whispering brain. The clock above the stove ticks in a way it never did before. I lean closer and realize it's me. The sound is the soft tick of my own breath, steadying to a new tempo. I zip the binder and feel the teeth catch and join. The weight sits in the crook of my elbow like a sleeping cat. I slide my father's coin into my pocket, and the metal finds its spot against my thigh. A warm, round reassurance. Lena's porch smells like damp mulch and laundry soap. Her doorbell chimes once, thin as a teaspoon on china. She opens fast. Hair pinned, glasses low on her nose. The lemon cleaner meets me first, then the steady hum of a laser printer working in the next room. We sit at a desk that used to be a dining table. The wood is cool through my sleeve. A bank of fluorescent lights buzzes overhead, steady and indifferent. The air tastes like paper dust, warm and dry. I set the binder down and snap it open. Sheet protectors sigh. She doesn't do the nervous talk people do when they plan to say no. She just draws the folder closer, mouth a straight thread, and picks up a pencil. The eraser head is creased like a heel that's walked far. She reads. My coin warms in my pocket. I press my palm down to keep it from burning a circle through the fabric. The printer coughs in the next room, and a page walks out face first onto a tray. Her pencil moves. It underlines in small strokes, the kind you only hear if the room is already quiet. She marks the coded watches. She marks the jets of client entertainment. She marks the credits in a name that is mine, but not in my life. There's a pattern, she says at last. The words are slow and sanded. Personal luxury masked as business. False deductions. Your social used to claim credits. She turns the page with a nail that doesn't click. And something else. Forged returns, or at least forged authorizations. The word forged makes a cold breeze across the skin between my ribs. I brace against the desk and feel the grain with my fingertips. It's a long, steady river I can hold on to. She looks up. Do you feel safe? Yes, I say. The coin gets hotter. I don't tell her that. I don't tell her about the groove it cuts in my palm like a door key I'm trying not to turn. Okay, She closes the pencil in her hand and makes 2 quick notes on a sticky flag. No exclamation points. There's a branch that handles this, she says, softening the word branch like it could bruise. I can ask for an informational consult. Not advice, not outcomes. Just facts and procedure. The printer beeps once. A toner light blinks and goes still. I keep originals, I say, because the sentence is safer than thank you. You can copy. Good, she says. Thermal paper fades. Keep it out of heat. She slides a carton of sheet protectors across the table. Acid-free if you have it. You did the right thing with duplicates. She taps a note where I wrote 1 of 2. Chain of custody is not just for TV. If you hand me any originals, I'll log the custody and hand them back. She swivels to the scanner and feeds a receipt under glass. The lamp wakes and throws a bar of cold light across the desk. The scan head whispers right, then left. A little electronic bell confirms the file. I watch the edges of the receipt under glass and think about breath. In, out. The coin holds its heat and gives it back, a tiny tide in my pocket. I pull it out, turn it across my palm once, and set it on the table. It makes a quiet, bright kiss on wood. Lena glances at it and says nothing. Sometimes a coin is a coin. Sometimes it's a metronome. She picks up her phone and scrolls to a name I can't see. I'm asking for an introduction only, she says, before she dials. No guarantees, no special treatment. Off the record at first, then on the record if you choose. Okay, I say. The word is smaller now. It fits inside my mouth without air around it. She speaks to someone like she's ordering from a menu she knows by heart. I have a taxpayer with documentation, she says. There are indications of false deductions and a potential misuse of SSN for credits. Also, a likely forged authorization on a transfer tied to joint funds. She pauses, listens. Her pencil writes a time and a place in tiny capitals. Informational consult only, she understands. Another pause. Public location is fine. She hangs up and sets the phone face down. You'll get a call, she says. He'll identify himself by name. Then he'll tell you what he cannot do. That's how you'll know it's him. She turns the pencil and clicks the lead. He may ask for your ID in person. Bring 2 forms. Keep the receipts with you. Keep the binder with you. Do I need a lawyer? The question slips out like a dropped spoon. You may want one, she says. You are not the subject. You are a witness and a potential injured party. Don't sign anything today that you don't read. Don't confront alone. If you feel unsafe, call 911 and say your location first. I nod and feel the coin again. Cool now. It takes the shape of my hand. She hands me a single sheet with a short checklist. It is plain and clean. Items I already do, items I hadn't. Order transcript copies, wage and income. Freeze at the bureau. New passwords, new 2-factor to a device only I control. Scan thermal slips sooner, photocopy the ink before it fades. Date everything in words. Say your name, she says suddenly, as if pulling a stitch fast. Right here, like you mean it. I say my name. It sounds like a gate that opens on the first push. Good, she says, a small smile breaking the straight thread. Practice. It helps when the room gets loud. We make 2 piles, one for her scanner, one that never leaves my side. She moves like a person who has done floods and fires and last-minute filings. Each sheet reaches her hands, gets wiped of air with a palm, gets scanned, gets set aside face up and safe. I write a simple log as she works, page count, subject, date in words, my initials, her initials. The fluorescent hum thins into a higher tone. Somewhere in the building, an HVAC unit coughs and settles. On the wall, a cheap clock says nothing helpful and keeps going. My phone vibrates. The sound is small in this room full of small sounds. Unknown number. I look at Lena. She nods once. Answer, she says. State your name. I swipe. This is... I say it without apology. The coin catches a strip of light and throws it back. A calm voice. A name. He states it and then repeats it with the department. Not quite flat, not quite kind. He says he's calling for an informational consult. He tells me what he cannot do. No advice, no promises, no interviews today. Just facts and procedure. Do you feel safe to talk? He asks. Yes, I say. Public place, he says. You choose, bring identification, bring what you've described. I'll acknowledge what I see and hear. That's all. I look at Lena. She is already writing the name in block letters for me to copy. I write it too. The pencil leaves a quiet, dark trail on the white. Where, he asks. A coffee shop surfaces in my mind. All burnt chocolate and milk steam and the hiss of a wand. Bright daylight. Tables near a glass wall. 2 exits. I say the name and the time it opens. And I say the time out loud in words so I won't lose it between here and there. I'll be there, he says. The call ends with a click that feels like a seal pressed into wax. I sit very still. The coin is cool again. I pick it up and turn the date so I can feel the groove under my ring finger. I practice my name once more, quieter, just for me. And the sound fits. The coffee shop door breathes me in on a chime that sounds like a teaspoon tapped against glass. Burnt espresso hangs in the air, thick as a memory. Milk steam hisses and settles. The chalkboard menu is ghosted with old prices. Sunlight falls through a row of hanging plants and stripes the small round tables with leaf-shaped shadows. He is there already. Plain blazer, careful eyes. Wallet unopened beside a paper cup. He rises only enough to show courtesy, not drama. The chair legs whisper on concrete and stop. Thank you for meeting, he says. Not warm, not cold. He places his leather wallet on the table and opens it just enough for the ID to live in the light. He angles it so the plastic doesn't flare. A professional habit. As I said on the phone, this is informational only. I can't advise, and I can't negotiate anything here. The coin warms in my palm, then gives the heat back. I set it by my cup so I won't fidget. The brass makes a light, bright kiss on the tabletop. He waits until I nod, then closes the wallet and leaves it there like a paperweight. I can confirm that records exist or do not exist in general terms, he says. I can acknowledge what I see and hear. If someone chooses to make a voluntary admission in a public place, and it is recorded cleanly with consent, and there is no coercion, I can document that a thing happened and who was present. Cleanly, I repeat. Meaning, he says, you announce the time and place. You state that recording is happening. All participants acknowledge. You have a witness in frame. You do not block exits. You do not threaten. You do not promise outcomes. Milk screeches under a steam wand and then softens to a breath. Someone laughs too big and then puts a hand over their mouth. My cup is warm at the rim and cool at the base. I wrap both hands around it and feel the gradient. I have receipts, I say. I have scans. I have a narrative from the bank with a time that isn't mine. Keep originals, he says. Bring copies. Maintain your own chain. If you hand anything to me, I'll log the transfer and hand it back. If you hand anything to anyone else, do the same. Photocopy thermal now. It fades. I did. My voice clicks like a tiny switch. 2 sets. One mailed to myself unopened. Good practice. He doesn't smile. He takes a napkin and folds it into a hard line, then another, then leaves it alone. If a statement occurs, let the signer speak in their own words. No scripts. Ask them to describe the items, the method, the accounts. Ask them to say it's voluntary. Have a notary confirm identity and witness the signature on any memorandum you bring. A notary in public, I say. Is that allowed? If they choose, he says. They are private. They can meet you anywhere lawful. I breathe through the smell of espresso until the bitter edge turns to something useful. Truth, daylight, dates, I say, testing the order. Those words will serve you, he says. Add one more. Consent. I nod and slide the binder's front pocket open just enough for him to see color tabs. I do not pass it across. He doesn't reach. The restraint sits neatly between us like a placemat. My cousin has a camera, I say. She wears it as a brooch. She films for her vlog. New battery, fresh card. We will announce recording. As long as everyone hears the announcement and stays, he says. No hidden devices. If someone says stop, you stop. I take out the coin and flip it once across my fingers. It clicks from knuckle to knuckle. The sound folds into the shop noise so cleanly I almost miss it. I can do that, I say. He glances at the coin, then at me. You have a steadiness, he says. Not like a compliment. More like an entry on a form. Choose a setting that favors witnesses and calm. Not at home. Brunch, I say before I can overthink it. Family likes brunch. He performs best with an audience. He tells stories. It will keep the volume down. The more public, the clearer the picture, he says. If there is a disturbance, you call 911 and you say your location first. State your name, then say you are seeking assistance with a disturbance in a public place. Do not chase. Do not touch. The espresso machine pumps a heartbeat into the counter. A child whacks a straw on the table and is shushed. I take a slow sip and let the bitter sit on my tongue until it eases. I'm not the subject, I say, to hear it in the room. You are a witness, he says. You may also be an injured party. Those are different hats. Today is neither. Today we talk about procedure. I pull a small zip case from my bag and open the back of the tiny camera with my thumbnail. The battery door pops with a plastic click that feels bigger than it is. I slide the new battery in. It nudges home with a soft, rubbered pressure and stays. The lens winks up at me like a calm eye. I press the power once, a brief start chime, then silence. He watches the motion, not the brand. If you test, he says, record yourself stating the day in words. No numbers that can be misheard. Say the location, say who is with you, then stop and file the test in a folder marked test. Folder marked test, I echo. The coin warms again. The heat rides up my wrist and settles at my elbow like a small animal finding its square of sun. If someone chooses to sign, he adds, have them read first. Have them state they read. Then sign. Notary checks their identification. You retain the original. You hand me a copy with your log. What if he refuses? The question steps out small and naked. Then you go home, he says, level. You sleep. You file your copies where you plan to file them. You breathe. You do not stage anything else. I nod. I look at the chalkboard until the letters blur and become lines. Then I look back at him. Do records exist? I ask. That rhyme with what I have? He thinks in silence for a full breath. There are records, he says finally. And some of what you have described rhymes. The words land like stones placed in a river. You can step on them or you can drown between them. That is all I can say. I finish the coffee even though it has gone cold and slick. The cup knocks the saucer with a dry porcelain tick. It sounds like the fork on my plate from that night. A pale metronome I didn't ask for. When? He asks. Soon, I say. The answer arrives clean and whole. Sunday, midday, public dining room with glass walls. He nods once. I'll be a private citizen at a separate table. If an admission occurs, I will acknowledge I heard it. If nothing happens, I will drink coffee. We stand. Chairs whisper again. He offers his hand. I offer mine. His shake is quick and undecorated. The wallet goes back in his pocket with a leather sigh. On the sidewalk, the light is a sheet across my face. I take out my phone and say the day in words as I make the calendar square. I write the place spelled out. I add, bring copies, bring ID, bring air. I circle the square once, then again. The graphite squeaks on the paper like a small door hinge. A buzz in my palm, a text from my husband, the bubble fills in slow, pale gray strokes. Let's do brunch Sunday, it says. Invite everyone. I have news. The coin taps my phone case, one bright, accidental bell. Brunch Sunday, he texts, bubble filling pale and slow. Invite everyone. I have news. I answer with one word and no punctuation. Yes. He starts moving like a man who hears a draft under a door. Phone turned face down wherever he sets it. Tabs close the second I enter a room. The router light blinks in a nervous code. He laughs more loudly, as if volume can salt the meat of a lie and preserve it another day. At the counter, I pull the binder close and scan everything, front, back, edges. Flatbed lamp sliding a cold bar of light over paper. The scanner beeps when each file lands. I name the files in words so the future has something to hold. April grocery, protein powder, odd brand, boutique watch, gift, equipment, gas station, 1 gallon, witnessed. The room smells like warm plastic and dry ink. The adhesive of the tape gives off a little sting. I keep the coin on the desk at my right hand, warm enough to remind me I'm not a ghost. He clips the kitchen with a smile that shows the gums. You scanning, archivist? Scrapbooks. It helps me think, I say. The coin kisses the wood and stills. Late nights bloom like bruises. Clients, he says, tying his laces too tight. The garage door coughs up and out. Browser history looks like winter, blank, salt white, smoothed by a plow. I watch his fingers learn the new speed of erasing. Ctrl-Shift-Delete becomes a prayer. The toothbrush in the holder dries without ever getting wet. I am already done needing permission. I label 2 small drives with a fine tip pen, 1 of 2, 2 of 2. I copy everything onto each, then slide them into tamper-evident sleeves with red tape that bites down and shows teeth if you try to lift it. I sign across the tape in long, careful letters. I say the day in words into my phone and into my own mouth. I walk to the post office where the air tastes like dust and rubber bands. The clerk stamps 2 envelopes with a round red fist and slides them away into a blue mouth. I keep the receipt and photograph the receipt and tuck the photo under the coin so the heat sets it in my mind. At the dining table, I print the letters. The paper is heavier stock, cool at the edges. 1. A memorandum of understanding. Repayment to me for funds siphoned and liabilities pinned to my number. Separation of finances, immediate. Language plain as a road sign, no adjectives to get lost in. Schedule. A lists items by date in words, blanks left for amounts he can write while he sweats. 2. A voluntary disclosure statement acknowledging misstatements and authorizing forwarding through proper channels. A paragraph for him to say, in his own words, that he understands. A line for consent. A line for the name of the place and the time in words. A line for the witness to print and sign. The notary acknowledgement clipped to the back like a quiet tale. I call the friend of a friend whose stamp lives in a square black case. Public place, I say. Your choice matters. If the table's flat, she says, and the ID is real, I can meet you. Time? 12:15, I say, hearing the digits turn to language in my mouth. 12:15 on Sunday in a room with glass walls. You'll witness only, no advice. Only identity, she says, only presence. A pause. I'll wear soft shoes. I won't clack. I text my cousin. Battery, card. Position near the window, the red LED steady, not blinking. She replies with a picture of the brooch lying on a paper towel like a patient. New battery fitted. Fresh card. She sends me a short clip of her own face saying the day in words, and the test ends with a quiet chime. At night, I change passwords. Long phrases I can say, but never write. I turn off CloudSync. I enroll 2-factor to a tiny physical key that clicks when I press it. The click is a cricket in the quiet kitchen. I flip my phone to airplane mode and practice the recording announcement. This is Sunday, midday, in the public dining room at, I say the name. Everyone at the table is aware and consents to recording. I am stating this for the record. I make myself use my full name. I do not trip. He watches me talk to my reflection in the dark window. Who are you practicing for? Myself, I say. He comes closer, carrying the scent of someone else's cologne. His grin shows back tooth. He taps my phone with one finger. Give me that, he says, light enough to pass for a joke. I take a step back so the cabinet corner is behind me, not at my hip. No, he holds the look for a beat. The AC kicks, a clean, steady breath that makes the kitchen curtains lift and settle. He laughs without sound and turns away. Wear something inviting Sunday, he says over his shoulder. Make the brunch worth it. When he leaves, the house exhales. I put the binder in a canvas tote with the zipper facing me. I add a spiral notebook, 2 pens, a small log sheet with lines for page counts, dates in words, initials. I put the notary's card in the outer pocket. I put the coin in the little zip just big enough for it alone. The metal warms through the fabric, a slow, round pulse against my palm. I build a checklist on a sticky note and stick it to the inside of the tote. Copies, yes. Originals, sealed. ID, 2. Cash, small bills. Recorder, on. Announce, first. Witness, visible. Exit, clear, count steps. If disturbance, 911, location first. Do not chase, do not touch. The night before, I run drills with my cousin on the phone. If you can't see me, reposition, I say. If there's shouting, hold steady, no sudden moves. If I say stop, stop. If I go quiet and touch my left shoulder, you call 911 and say the name of the place first. I hear you, she says. I'll wear flats, and the brooch will be a joke, like always. Look nowhere, I remind her. Hear everything. She laughs softly. You train me for this without meaning to. The coin cools and warms, cools and warms. My mouth is dry. I drink water from a glass that holds the chill and leaves a ring on the counter. I wipe the ring with the side of my hand and see my father's fingers in the motion. He never left a mess on paper. He used to tilt the coin and catch the kitchen light and say nothing until I noticed the glow. Near midnight, I print one more copy of the voluntary statement and slide it under the heavier paper so it sits flush at the edge. I line the corners the way a dealer squares a deck. I tuck a small sticky flag at the place where he will read his name aloud if he reads anything at all. He comes home at a time that still counts as late even when you don't say it out loud. The garage door grinds up, rattles, stops. Keys scrape the bowl. He sets his phone face down and lets his eyes skim the tote like a stone that never sinks. Brunch is going to be fun, he says, voice bright with something he thinks is control. I stand in the doorway between kitchen and hall. The coin is a small hot planet in my pocket. I rehearse the words again until they taste like steel on my tongue. Read first. Say what you understand. Choose. Glass walls greet us before the host does. The dining room is bright enough to feel like outside. Potted trees lift glossy leaves toward the vents. Plates whisper. Knives sing light on porcelain. Fresh oranges fog the air with a sting that prickles my nose. He tells the host our name as if it opens doors. Celebrating, he says, louder than necessary, and guides their gaze toward the bar. Champagne, their best. 2 bottles. He wants the room to hear bottle. Plural. He wants witnesses for generosity he didn't pay for. I choose the table when given a choice. Back to glass, not to door. 2 exits in a straight line. An aisle wide enough for the notary's soft shoes. I count steps in my head and make the path a picture I can fold and pocket. The tablecloth is linen, clean and heavy, a good surface for signatures. My coin rides my lifeline, and I press it once to know where it is. Mother-in-law arrives in pearls that clink politely against her clavicle. She kisses his cheek with a sound like tissue paper. My boy, she says, and takes the end seat with a view of herself in the window. Her fragrance is lilies and something medicinal. She flashes quick eyes at me like camera shutters, and then smooths the table with both palms. Cousins slide in with their complicated couples. A chair leg skates and clicks to a stop. My cousin arrives last, late by design, and pins the camera brooch to her dress with a laugh that makes it a joke. Lifestyle B-roll, she says, fluffing her napkin. The red LED is a dull bead, not flashy. Only people who know to look can see it. At the far end, a man takes a small table by the wall. He is not looking at us. He takes out a wallet and sets it on the edge of his saucer as if to keep a draft from lifting the napkin. He checks his phone once and leaves it face up. He is off-duty and present. A shadow that decided to sit. The server arrives with water that tastes like clean glass and a comment about the weather. My husband orders champagne too quickly, tripping over the vineyard name, then corrects himself as if he meant to. He waves away small plates and orders oysters we don't eat. He wants the table to reflect light. I breathe through the citrus and metal and dish steam and find the coin's round weight. It warms against my palm like a tiny stove. I keep it still. The tote sits at my feet, zipper facing me, log sheet on top, pens snug. The binder inside has corners like a deck squared by a careful hand. He begins his story without waiting for the champagne. Big week, he says, leaning back so the chair creaks. New contract, new clients. We're scaling. The word scaling lands heavy, then tries to float. He looks left and right for appreciation, like a man checking mirrors. Mother-in-law laughs on a pearl clack. About time the city knows who you are. Then, with candy bitterness, try smiling, dear, at me, like it's a chore I've skipped. I lift my water, not my mouth. The rim is cold. The temperature climbs into my bottom lip and stops there. I set it down without a ring. The coin hums a little under my thumb. The room is a living thing. Coffee hisses at the pass. A chair scrapes far away. A baby fusses and is bounced toward a window where light can distract. Tell them, he says, eyes shining. Tell them how we trimmed fat, optimized. It's genius. He taps my plate with the handle of his fork. 1, 2, bright ping on porcelain. Then a third because he wants me to flinch. I let the sound pass through me and settle in the floor. You tell it, I say, mild. You like details. He inhales with the shape of a man about to instruct. He leans forward and lowers his voice just enough to make everyone lean in. It's simple. You stop letting Uncle Sam park his car in your driveway. He winks at his brother. You make your life efficient. Efficient, the brother repeats, like a toast that never finds its glass. The champagne arrives. The foil tears with a faint spit. The wire cage chimes against glass. The server twists the bottle, not the cork, so the cork sighs in a minor key instead of popping. Suds fan and fold into the crystal, a quiet storm. He raises his glass higher than anyone. To deals, he says. To family knowing when to clap. To numbers that line up, I say, just to air behind it. I let my cousin hear it, and maybe the man by the wall. Numbers, he says, and laughs. Don't bore your aunt. My coin prints a circle into my skin. I pull the tote closer with my foot until the strap touches my ankle. The hardware gives a tiny metal click, a soft anchor. I let conversation walk. The server is a metronome for course pacing. He drops plates we didn't need and steps away, the scent of orange pith and butter in his wake. Mother-in-law begins with a story about gala seating and ends by counting chairs that should have bent to her. Someone mentions a show about sharks and entrepreneurs. Someone else tries to talk about a nephew's graduation and is drowned by talk of valuations. Business is about vision, he says, lighting the word like a flare. You see what other people don't. You treat every dinner like a meeting. You treat every meeting like a deduction. He flashes his wrist. The watch catches a blade of sun and slices it across the tablecloth. Deduction, I say, softer than a prayer. The man by the wall lifts his water. The badge in his wallet stays asleep. He doesn't watch us. He watches the room. He positions himself beneath a vent where the white noise is constant, where voices blend into the safe hum that keeps secrets from being words unless you bring them to him. I test my cousin with a question only we would register. Battery okay? I ask, looking at my napkin. She dabs her lip. Fresh, she murmurs, as if answering a different thing. The red bead remains constant. I let my husband keep the floor. He is good at the performance. He turns phrases into props. He tosses them up, lets them glitter, pretends to catch them behind someone's ear. Client entertainment, he says, like an inside joke. Conference, like a password. Equipment, like a magician revealing the dove was silk. And silk was deductible. The coin is a sun again. I move it to the space between ring and middle and feel the thin groove of the date, like a track I meant to follow. My breath finds the tempo of the room. In, out, no hurry. The notary texted at the door. In the area. Soft shoes. I imagine her square stamp case resting in her bag, like a tame anvil, waiting to say the last clean word. He leans toward me as if confiding. Don't you feel proud? He says. We're finally playing the game right. I look at the glass wall where our reflections sit with other strangers. My face is calm in the duplicate room. In the duplicate room, the coin shines. In this room, I slide my tote a whisper closer and let my fingers find the binder's zipper pull. Tell us your favorite part, his mother says, sweet poison under sugar. The savings, the genius of it. I study the pattern of the linen weave and line my breath up with its crosshatch. I touch the coin to the fabric. It leaves no mark. Good. I look up and meet my husband's eyes across the light. Start with your watches, I say, gentle as a hand on a skittish horse. Then the theater. He laughs on the inhale, too quick. Oh, come on, he says, flashing the dial like a heliograph. Light breaks on the glass and slides over the linen. It's equipment. I'm the face of the brand. I open the binder. Paper breathes. Tabs rise like gills and settle. The room changes pitch. Less clatter, more listening. I angle the spine to the light so the copies lie flat. The originals stay sealed in their sleeves. 2 signatures across the red tape like rails. The watches are coded as equipment, I say, soft enough to pull sound toward me. Invoice date in late spring, merchant ID ending in 739. Paid from joint funds, then deducted. I slide a copy to his brother, one to the aunt who loves to hold court, one to his mother. Pages move like skin. The table goes from talk to hush. Even the citrus fog seems to hang in place. Client entertainment, I say, touching the next tab. This is a home theater, seats with cup holders, a subwoofer that shakes the studs. Labeled as meetings, the description uses the word consult 3 times. I point to the printed line. 3. He gives a small scoff that doesn't reach his eyes. Ambiance is part of the job. You need a setup. Ambiance is not deductible as personnel training, I say. Yet here we are. Mother-in-law lets pearl on pearl tap once. We're at brunch, she breathes. You could have done this at home. Daylight, I say, and keep my voice steady. Witnesses help truth stand up straight. I flip to travel. The conference, I say, and feel the coin warm where it sleeps in my palm. Round trip in early summer. Hotel that writes its sent endings like art. No registration, no badge, no agenda. It's a beach. I lay the photo I took of the lobby logo beside the receipt like a caption. I drove to our airport and asked the desk if their system had you. They didn't. You left from a smaller airfield 40 minutes away. Private. He leans back and knocks his knee into the table, a small quake that stirs the water. You're hysterical, he says lightly, as if the word is a handkerchief he can toss and catch. You don't understand the landscape. The landscape is dates and amounts, I say. It's merchant IDs and trace numbers. It's a transfer authorized at 11:23 at night, while my phone sat on the nightstand and never lit. I turn the page and point. Here, authorization path, session not mine. He glances down without bending, a king unwilling to bow to his own ledger. You're misreading, he says. These are miscoded. Everyone watches as equipment, I say again, letting the list count like beads. Theater as training, vacation as conference, credits in my name, claimed with my number for expenses that never touched my life. I slide the credit entries out into the light. Refund lines that feel like a hand in my pocket. He reaches to pluck one page back. I place my palm on the stacked coin first. The brass meets bone and the sound is a small, certain ding. A bell only for those tuned to hear it. Across the table, my cousin adjusts her napkin. The brooch eye is a dull red dot. She looks nowhere. She hears everything. He tries a laugh again, thinner. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm reading, I say. You taught me how. The server arrives with oysters on ice, tidy shells pebbled in frost. Knives chime against china. A lemon wedge sprays a clean mist. The smell of brine folds into orange and butter and lands low in the throat. Mother-in-law picks up a shell and sets it down empty, as if consumption could blot words. I turn a copy toward her. The filing uses my social, I say. It assigns credits to me. It signs my name in a slant my hand never learned. Her face tightens around her pearls. She is being cruel, she whispers, but her eyes stick to the line where the signature is wrong. Dates, I say, amounts, merchant IDs. The Trinity lands like feet on a stair. I don't move my face. I don't raise my voice. You can check my grid if the small type blurs. He points at the badge asleep in the leather at the far table. Is this a setup? He smiles for the room, but the smile shows too many teeth. You brought an audience. I brought witnesses, I say, and I brought room for you to speak. He flips a page over with a flick that is supposed to look bored. His finger stops at the narrative from the bank. He reads because the font is plain and acts like a door that opens every time. His cheek twitches when he reaches the time. He taps the paper once, as if tapping can erase ink. Merchants make mistakes, he says, but the sentence is watery. They do, I say. That's why you check the pattern. Patterns don't get tired. Patterns don't forget their story. I touch the stapled corner where my pencil marked Tuesday in words. And this pattern keeps using my name when I'm asleep. The server refills water. The pitcher's lip glugs against the air in a friendly gulp. The AC breathes a long, even exhale through the vent above us. Cutlery rests. Napkins still. I kept the receipts, I say again, the words small and round like the coin. I kept them because truth is heavy and it needs a box to live in. He tries to grin at his brother. The grin slips. You're making a thing out of nothing. Then say the nothing on camera, I say, not looking at the brooch, not looking at the man with the wallet. Say what each line means in your own words. If it's nothing, the facts will float. Mother-in-law puts her hand on my wrist and meets the coin's hard circle under my skin. She flinches like she's touched an outlet. The pearls knock twice, tick-tick, and go quiet. A photo of a logo doesn't prove travel, he says, groping for stagecraft. The ticket counters do, I say. The ACH trace does. The authorization path does. The narrative does. I turn that page back toward him so the corner kisses his thumb. Read. He doesn't. He drums once on the linen instead. The sound is a dull, padded beat. The tablecloth eats it and leaves nothing. The notary walks in soft shoes that say almost nothing. She speaks to the host and gestures toward the glass. She carries a square, black pouch that sits heavy on her wrist like a tame anvil. The host nods. The notary waits, not approaching, eyes on no one in particular. At the far end, a hand rests on a leather wallet and turns it so the plastic window doesn't catch glare. Not open, just ready. Look at the dates, I say gently, then the amounts, then the IDs. He stares at me as if volume will return if he keeps the silence long enough. The room leans closer by doing nothing at all. The coin warms, then cools. I feel the groove of the year under my ring finger and hold it like a railing on a narrow stair. Read first, I say, voice low. Say what you understand. He stares at the page without letting his eyes focus, the way people watch a fire alarm and hope it stops on its own. Silverware hushes. The room leans. For the record, I say, soft but shaped. This is Sunday midday in the public dining room at this location. Everyone at the table is aware a recording is happening. I let the words settle like place cards. If anyone does not consent, you may leave. I don't care, he says too quickly. Film your scrapbook. My cousin tips the brooch a hair so the red bead faces the center. The tiny LED does not blink. It just is. A leather whisper at the far end. Ramirez stands enough to be seen, not enough to loom. He opens a slim wallet and turns it so the plastic window lives in the light. Eagle, letters, a name that sounds like a line drawn straight. He does not raise his voice. I'm present as a private citizen and witness, he says. I can say what is lawful to say. Records exist. The discrepancies described are material in nature. He lets a beat breathe. No arrest is happening here. Any voluntary statement may be documented and forwarded through proper channels. Any signature is the signer's choice. My husband's brother mutters a word with sharp edges. The room inhales as one, a soft, collective intake that tastes like orange and salt. Mother-in-law reaches for my wrist as if to steer the moment. Her fingers meet the coin's hard circle beneath my skin and twitch back like she touched a live wire. The pearls click twice and go still. I lay the voluntary statement on the linen. The paper is cool, weighty, centered. The margin smells faintly of ink and warehouse. I slide a pen beside it, not touching his side of the page. Soft shoes approach. The notary arrives like a clean page. Square black pouch, compact journal. A stamp case that sits quiet and certain in her palm. Good afternoon, she says to the air, not to anyone in particular. Who is signing? No one, he says. Then, too late? Yet. Her smile is neutral as paper. She opens the journal and smooths a line flat with 2 fingers. I will need identification if a signature occurs, she says. 2 forms is best. She looks at me. And I will witness only. No advice. Understood, I say. The stamp case makes a small, satisfying click as she sets it down. A contained sound, like a held decision. He leans forward as if the table were a gym bench. This is ridiculous. Read first, I tell him again, keeping my breath even. Say what you understand, then choose. He studies me like I'm a bad headline. He flicks the paper with a fingernail. The page doesn't move. Ramirez inclines his head, a tiny yes to gravity. If you choose to speak, he says, do so in your own words. If you choose to sign, read every word. He places the wallet back on the saucer as if anchoring a map. A server surprises us with a refill. The pitcher glugs politely. Condensation slides down the glass like a slow clock. I count the exits without moving my eyes. 2 steps to the aisle, 4 to the host stand. 6 to the sidewalk where the light is a sheet. Start at the top, I say quietly. Your name, the date in words. Then the part about misstatements, then consent. He snorts, but his fingers trace the header anyway, like they want to learn the shape of a consequence. The coin warms in my palm. A small, steady stove. I press it once to my lifeline and feel the groove of the year. The notary positions herself where the light is even. If you proceed, she says, I will compare your identification to your face. I will record the date in words. I will witness your signature. I will affix my seal. If you do not proceed, I will close my journal. It's your choice. Choice, he echoes, a parrot who doesn't like the word it swallowed. His brother leans in with a hiss. Don't give them anything. He shrugs him off without looking away from the page. The tablecloth takes the motion and dampens it to nothing. Records exist, Ramirez repeats, steady as a metronome. What gets forwarded is what happens. Silence is silence. A statement is a statement. He laughs once on the exhale, a sound like a tire finding a nail. If I say I optimized, will that make you happy? Use correct words, I say. You know them. He reads the first paragraph under his breath. His lips form the shape of misstatements, then the shape of voluntary. He stops at the line that says forwarded and stares at the word like it's a hole in a frozen lake. ID, the notary says gently. He pats his jacket as if it might offer a bailout. Wallet, license, credit card. He puts them down with more noise than necessary. The license sticks to the plastic sleeve with a soft kiss. The card clicks. She examines without drama. Compares angles to angles. Names to the page. She writes in her journal in tight, even letters. The pen's nib scratches faintly like moth wings against glass. Do you understand what this is? I ask him. It's a trap, he says, automatic. It's a record, I say. It's air. I keep my voice low so he has to come closer to hear it. No one is arresting you. No one is forcing you. Read. Say what you understand. Then choose. He licks his lip, and the gesture makes him briefly young, briefly honest. He looks left, where his mother smooths nothing into flatness. He looks right, where his brother is all angles and heat. He looks past me, where the glass wall holds our ghost table, in another room where none of this is happening. State your name, the notary says softly, readying her page. He looks at Ramirez instead. If I speak, you'll, pass around a memo. I will acknowledge that a statement occurred in a public place, Ramirez says. I will include who was present. I will include the date and the content as I heard it. That is all. And if I don't, he says? Then you don't, Ramirez says. And I finish my coffee. A chair scrapes at the far side of the room. A baby hiccups. The AC exhales, long and clean, washing the table with a thin ribbon of cold air. My coin cools under my thumb. The temperature drop is a clear bell in my hand. Mother-in-law exhales a word that isn't my name. Please, she says to the air, meaning don't embarrass me. The voluntary statement waits. All patient margin and readable font. The line for his name sits there like a door he can open or not. The pen lies parallel to it, the way a runway lights toward takeoff. He looks at me again, trying to find the old map where I backed down if he smiled a certain way. He doesn't find it. He looks at the brooch and pretends he isn't. The red bead doesn't flinch. Read first, I say for the last time, soft as linen. Say what you understand, then choose. He picks up the pen. It is heavier than it looks. He rolls it once between his fingers. The notary's stamp case makes that tidy, public click as she opens it and sets her seal within reach. The pen hovers over the line. His breath lifts the edge of the paper and lays it down again, a tiny wave. He tries a joke first. Do I get a prize for best husband in a documentary? The smile sits on his face like a sticker that won't stick. No one laughs. China holds its breath. He tries charm next, voice dipped in honey. Baby, you don't want to do this at brunch. We can take this home. I'll show you everything. He reaches for my hand as if the years will pull me forward like a rope. I keep my hand where it is. The coin warms in my palm, a small sun with one job. I feel the date groove like a track. Anger arrives last, thin and bright. Fine, film your theater, he says, loud enough for 2 tables. Let's give them a show. Say your name for the record, I tell him. Say the day in words. Say you understand the recording is happening, and you consent. He stares 1 heartbeat too long, then spits the words like olive pits. He says his name. He says Sunday midday. He says the location. He says he consents. The red bead in my cousin's brooch doesn't blink. It burns steady. Now, I say, keeping my voice soft enough that he has to lean toward me to hear. Speak the truth in your own words. Name the items, name the method, name the accounts. He looks at the copy nearest to him as if it might bite. Sweat beads at his hairline, fine as mist on glass. Watches, he says, clipped. Coded as equipment. He swallows. 2, high value, for branding. Ramirez nods once. A tally mark in the air when the date and the amount match what already exists in a place that is not this room. The theater, I prompt, and I don't raise my voice. How did you label it? He stares at the oyster bowl like it will give him a better word. Client entertainment, he says finally. His vowels crack on the second word. Training, presentations. Travel, I say, and I feel the coin heat and cool, like a tide coming in under the cloth. What was the conference? Silence gathers like fabric. He scrapes his lip with his teeth. There was no conference, he says. The words are small stones, stacked. It was a vacation, private flight, boutique hotel, Ramirez's nod lands on that too. The notary does not nod. She reads along line by line, eyes left to right to left, the way a scanner does. Her pen hovers above her journal without touching. The credit's claimed in my name, I say. Say what you did. His brother hisses air through his teeth. Mother-in-law's pearls knock once against bone and stop. My husband squeezes the pen as if trying to juice it. I used your number, he says, eyes on his plate. I filed for credits. I took the refund. In your own words, I remind him. I used your social, he says, louder. Each syllable a step down a stair. I claimed credits you didn't see. I spent the refund. The restaurant sound thins until it is only AC breath and the whisper of linen against wood. Ink smells tinny, metallic. A clean cut in the air. The transfer, I say. Describe the method. He closes his eyes a moment, as if that could unwrite a narrative. He opens them on the copy and reads, because reading is easy and killing ink is not. Password reset at 11:23 at night, he says. Two-factor to the number on... He pauses. On the other line, I keep, he swallows. Logged in as you, authorize the ACH from joint to business. Ramirez nods again when the method matches the bank's dry story. He looks at the clock not because he's bored, but because time belongs to records. I follow his eyes once, and then return to my husband's mouth, to catch the shape of the next truth before it falls apart. For the recording, I say, state that you are speaking voluntarily. State that no one is forcing you. He does. His voice thins. He says the words like he's stepping off a curb he didn't see. The notary lays her finger on a line of the voluntary disclosure and taps once. Continue, she says gently, and he does. He reads the sentence he has avoided reading. He says he misrepresented personal expenses as business deductions. He says he understands the statement can be forwarded through proper channels. He says he understands there is no agreement today. No promises, only air and ink. He finishes the paragraph and the edges of him look smaller. I feel the coin cool. I smell citrus and a faint electric note from the vent above us. The camera's red bead is steady, patient, a quiet star. I slide the repayment memorandum up through the light like a card the dealer wants you to see. This is separate, I say, calm. Restitution to me for funds siphoned. Acknowledgement of liabilities pinned to my number. Separation of finances immediate. Consent to forward the voluntary disclosure. He makes a laugh sound that cannot stand. What if I don't? Then you don't, I say, the words clear enough to drink. And the voluntary statement still exists. Choose. He reads. He reads longer than he ever has at a table without asking someone to just summarize. He follows Schedule A with his finger, date in words, amount in words. The merchant IDs in tiny type that sit inside their own quiet boxes. He writes one figure in, then crosses it out, then writes the real one with the zeros, counting themselves like coins rolling on a counter. ID again, the notary says softly. He places his ID. She checks the face against the plastic. She writes her own tiny letters. The journal paper whispers. The stamp case is open and waiting, square and patient. For the record, I say you consent to separation of finances. Say you authorize forwarding this statement. I slide a pen to him and feel the coin flare hot for 1 second, then settle. He looks at me like he wants to hate me and can't find a place to put it. He looks at his mother, who cannot help him with numbers. He looks at Ramirez, who does not look back, who watches the whole room like a lifeguard and not a judge. I consent, he says, and his voice stalls, then restarts. I authorize forwarding. Sign here, the notary says, and touches the line with a nail that makes no sound. He signs. His hand trembles once, a shiver across the S. The ink shines wet, a small slick river. It smells like pennies. The notary leans in. The stamp fits her palm like a tool she was born with. The seal bites down with a tidy public thunder that pops in the linen, in the glass, in the quiet bones of this bright room. People at nearby tables flinch and pretend they didn't. She lifts the stamp, and the paper shows its raised circle to the light, a clean ring like my coin's ghost in other pages. I log the page count on my little sheet. I initial in the corner. She initials in her journal, steady as a heartbeat under a stethoscope. Ramirez makes a small mark in his notebook that might be nothing and might be the date in words. My husband stares at the stamped circle like it could open and swallow him, or like it could be a halo he forgot to earn. The sound of the seal lingers in the room for a breath. then folds itself into the steady hiss of the vent. Mother-in-law unravels first. Her pearls knock like teeth as she leans in, voice pitched to bruise. "Judas," she says, and the word rolls across the linen like a dropped bead. She is thinking of betrayal. I am thinking of ledgers. He jolts as if woken. His hand shoots toward the papers the way a hand shoots toward a ledge. I put my palm, coin first, on the stack. The metal meets the signatures and goes instantly cool. Immovable, a small planet against the tides. The pages don't slide. His fingers stop where my wrist starts. A manager approaches with the practiced calm of someone walking down a church aisle. Hands folded, tie straight. "Is everything okay at this table?" he asks, voice like a priest at the rail. The dining room holds its breath and pretends it isn't. "There's no fight," I say, keeping my breath easy. "Just paperwork." The notary closes her stamp case with a neat click that sounds like a period. She writes in her journal, slow and exact, and tucks her seal back into the black pouch, the weight of it settling like a stone into still water. My cousin touches her napkin, and the brooch eye holds steady, a red bead that refuses to blink. My husband sinks back into his chair. He looks smaller than his suit. The napkin on his lap has slid sideways, a white flag without intention. He exhales, and the exhale smells like champagne that was trying too hard to matter. Ramirez sets his wallet down again, kept low, kept still. His voice is made of guidelines, a lane painted on the road. "Next steps," he says. "You will receive correspondence. Interviews are scheduled. Locations will be specified. You will have options, but they are choices, not escapes." He isn't a judge. He is a map. Mother-in-law's pearls make a little clatter as she grabs her bag. "We're leaving," she says to no one and everyone, but she doesn't stand. The chair legs would scrape, and she knows the sound would cling. I take out my small log sheet and write the page count in the corner. The pen tip whispers, "I initial." The notary initials her journal. Ramirez notes the date in words. Chain of custody holds. "Do you need the originals?" the manager asks, soft, because the table is a sensor now, and any loud move will set it off. "I keep originals," I say. "I can provide a copy." I pull a prepared set, a mirror of the morning, stapled, labeled, the edges square. I slide it across to Ramirez on the linen. "Copy of the voluntary statement and memorandum for your acknowledgement." He doesn't touch it yet. "For the record," he says, eyes on the paper as if it might drift, "you are handing me a copy. You retain originals." "I retain originals," I repeat. "Copy transferred at this table, Sunday midday, public dining room." I write that sentence on my log without looking down, because my hand knows how. He lifts the packet and sets it on his saucer, exactly where the wallet sat before. The porcelain gives a small, dry tick. My husband lifts his water and drinks as if water can undo ink. His hand leaves a damp oval on the glass. He puts it down too hard. The bottom kisses the table with a choked sound. He reaches again for the stack, but the coin is still there, cool and stopping. He looks at my hand and then past it, like the old map of me might be folded under the table somewhere. "Interview scheduling," Ramirez continues, the words smooth from being used correctly. "If you receive a call, they will identify themselves by name and department. They will not ask for payment. They will not ask for social security numbers over the phone. Correspondence is official, not texts. You have the right to bring representation." The vent breathes. The ticket printer at the server station chirps once, a tiny bird in the shrub of noise. The notary zips her pouch, a low, even rasp. She says to the air, "If you need certified copies, ask your counsel," and then steps back into the flow of the room until she is just another person with soft shoes. My cousin shifts, and the brooch gathers each face into its small circle, faithful and unblinking. Mother-in-law's hand lands on my wrist again, lighter now. She finds the coin's edge and flinches like the metal has a temperature different from the room. "You could have spared us," she whispers. "I already did," I say, and it's quiet enough that only the linen hears me. The manager clears his throat once. "Would you like the check?" The question is a door held open. "Yes," I say. The word sits clean in my mouth. He nods as if he knows something about thresholds, and leaves us to cross this one without audience. My husband stares at the stamped circle as if the paper might breathe. He swallows hard, eyes moving in short, mechanical jumps. This was theater. Client entertainment," I say, and the phrase is almost kind in the way a label can be. Plain and true and done. He looks at Ramirez for rescue he is not offering. Ramirez's gaze stays on the road of process. You will receive letters, he says. Respond. Keep copies. Do not ignore. That is not advice. That is general information. I don't need your tone, my husband mutters toward the plate, but it has left us. And even he can hear the absence. The server lays the black folio like a small book at the table's edge. The leather smells faintly of lemons and handling. I pick it up and see the total like a new kind of number. Finite, contained, paid for by nobody's performance. I take out a card with only my name, the letters pressed so clean they look wet. The card edge is cold. I slide it under the elastic and write the tip in words, because I am that person now, and sign so my hand knows what my name feels like in public. The pen glides and stops. A quiet period. Mother-in-law's pearls are restless, a nest of small bones. She makes a sound meant to gather sympathy and only gathers attention. The manager drifts back, eyes kind, hands at ease. We appreciate you, he says to the table, to the tension, to the way it is leaving. I'll walk you out, I say to my cousin, not to him, not to anyone I don't need to shepherd. My cousin nods, and the brooch eye drops like a curtain, still rolling, not blinking. Ramirez stands without scraping the chair and pockets the copy, the wallet. His notes. You have what you need, he says, not a question. He looks at me, not through me. Remember to breathe. I am, I say. It surprises me that it's true. The manager returns the card and the receipt. The paper is warm from the little machine that sighed it into being. My name sits alone on the thin strip, black on white, uncomplicated. The receipt curls against my palm like a sleeping fish, light and alive. I tuck it into the binder and zip the teeth closed. The sound is a smooth seam. The coin settles back into my pocket, round against bone, a compass turned to north. We stand and the room stirs around us, glad to be a restaurant again. Chairs adjust. A baby laughs at a spoon. Orange oils shimmer in the air like tiny suns. I take one last swallow of water. It tastes like clean glass and relief. Weeks stretch tight. A clothesline between buildings. Letters arrive in crisp envelopes that smell faintly of ink and warehouses. The return addresses are printed in a font that never blinks. I stack them in a shallow tray by the door and open them with a metal opener that clicks once, neat as a seatbelt. I file for innocent spouse relief on a Tuesday that feels like noon, even when it rains. I say my name into the room and into the form. I print slowly so each letter stands on its own feet. I attach copies of the signed voluntary statement and the repayment memorandum, copies of dates in words, amounts in words, merchant IDs like coordinates. I add a short cover note, 2 sentences, plain as bread. Please find enclosed. See attachments, no adjectives. The printer warms my hands. Ink dries to a thin shine. I make a checklist with squares I can color in. Copy set 1, copy set 2, certified mail slips, return receipt requested, log entry written. I put each packet into a big envelope that snugs the edges without bending. The peel and stick strip lifts with a dusty breath. I press it down with the flat of my hand, coin tucked under my palm so the pressure is even. At the post office, the air tastes like rubber bands and old tape. The clerk weighs, prints labels, slides me little green cards. The date stamp thunks down, one steady punch after another. I write the time in words on my log. 10:30 in the morning, Wednesday. I say it under my breath so my mouth knows it happened. Nights are different. I sleep with the binder on the chair like a dog that understands doors. The corner edges glow faintly in the streetlight. The coin sleeps in the shallow dish by the bed. When I wake, I touch its cool face with one finger. It warms in a small circle and stays. He moves into his brother's spare room. The word spare sits hard in my mouth. Then he moves into a smaller room alone, and the word alone rings for a long time like a metal bowl struck once. He texts late apologies like coins dropped in a well. You made me do this, one says. I'm sorry, another says. We can fix this, a third lies. I set my phone to deliver a single, steady line. Please direct all financial communication through counsel. Then I silence the thread and feel the quiet bloom like clean air. Garnishments begin. The word arrives in a letter that is all spine and no posture. A copy goes to him. A copy comes to me because numbers have been shared so long they think they are married. His golf membership freezes. An email with a politely tragic subject line. I see him once in passing on a sidewalk. Wrist naked, watch gone. The pale circle where it used to live looks soft as a secret. Ramirez calls once to confirm receipt of the packet I handed him at brunch. He says his name, then repeats it with department, as if drawing the line again for anyone who forgot it. Correspondence will follow, he says. Keep copies. Respond by the dates given. His voice is still made of lanes painted on roads. I write the call down in my log and say the day in words as the ink dries. My own accountant meets me in an office that smells like toner and carpet that remembers shoes. She is precise the way bridges are precise. We talk about new accounts with only my name. We talk about an emergency fund with numbers that will not leave the house dressed as hope. We talk about setting an alert that pings my phone like a small radio beep if any card in my name tries to pay for watches again. We talk about clean lines. She says, "You're doing well," and I say, "I am," to hear it out loud. I freeze my credit with 3 bureaus that sound like distant cousins. The websites click and stutter and ask questions that feel like riddles my past left me as a prank. I answer them. I use a new passphrase long enough to be a poem. I press the small physical key into my laptop, and it clicks. A cricket sound in an empty room. I feel safer than a password has ever made me feel. The house rewrites its noises. The refrigerator heart is still regular. The AC breathes like it's learned to sing in tune. At night I hear the whisper of the router, a sound like paper being turned in a quiet library, and it no longer makes me think of traces. I keep the binder close for a while, and then I move it to the hall closet behind the winter coats. Spine out, corners squared. It looks like a book about another family. Letters keep coming, some arrive with windows. Some ask questions, some only state. I answer what needs answers. I sign my name one careful time each day and no more. I keep the pages in folders that do not travel. I put a calendar on the wall and write deadlines in words. When one passes, I cross it out with a single line and breathe. He asked to meet in public to talk. He says he wants closure. I say, "Send your questions by email." He writes one long message that circles and a short one that bites. I do not reply. He tries again at 2 a.m. I mute him again. His words go somewhere I can't hear, like coins in a well that has learned to keep what people throw at it. I cook for one. Eggs that set softly and hold their shape. Toast that scratches my tongue in the right way. Coffee that tastes like dark chocolate and not like burnt. I put plates away in new places because the old places feel like habits that wore a path into me. I play the radio low and let the news pass through without catching on my skin. The notary sends me a certified copy of the journal page where his signature lives. The envelope is stiff as a slate. The seal rises under my thumb, a hill I can climb without leaving my kitchen. I file it under a tab labeled with the month in words. I don't look at the number of tabs. Numbers will wait. They always do. A letter arrives addressed only to me, and the font looks almost kind. It acknowledges my application for innocent spouse relief. It lists the attachments received, then lists what happens next. Words like review, words like determination, words that do not promise, and that is their promise. I run my finger along the margin and feel the heat of the lamp where it sat on a government desk. I put it in the tray, and I sit down, and I breathe until my shoulders drop. Some afternoons, I take the coin out to the counter and spin it with a practiced flick. It wobbles, sings, lies flat. The sound is a bright ring, then a hush. I remember my father rolling it across his knuckles while bills lay open like mouths. He'd say, "Count what counts," without looking up. I say it back to the empty kitchen, and the empty kitchen answers by being enough. He sends one message that sticks. "I'm sorry, I typed 3 words. I hope so," and erase them. I type 2, "Be well," and erase those 2. I put the phone face down and turn on the tap. Water hisses, then steadies. I wash a glass until it squeaks. I dry it with a clean towel and set it on the shelf, mouth down, new place. When the sun comes through the window at the right angle, the counter looks like a page that wants a circle on it. I set the coin there and leave it. The metal cools, slow as a lake in evening. It sits in its own silence. It doesn't tell me what to do next. I stand in my kitchen and listen to the AC breathe and the refrigerator heartbeat, and the soft, living sound of nothing breaking. I think of the table, the stamp, the tidy thunder. I think of the watch gone from his wrist, and how pale the skin was underneath, like absence could be color.